Good morning from here in Bali, and being in this other hemisphere from where most of the people I know are. I recognize that good morning is a very relative term. So, in my morning practice of being, of not rushing into my doing for the day, in the practice of contemplating the reality of life, the reality of being, asking the questions, who am I really? What is this incredible, precious play of life? This morning, another layer, if you will, of knowing was known. And I mention this because when we stay in the conversation of what is reality, when we stay in the conversation of exploring truth, what is the essential nature of simply being, we will go through all manner of revelations and understandings and embodiments, recognitions. And I want to invite you to really, really, really sit with this understanding that I'm about to share. It's one that I've been sitting with for years, and that it's been deepening and expanding and opening my own understanding, my own direct experience of true self. And this morning, another level of true self was revealed. And the understanding that I want to invite you to explore and contemplate and be with is the fact that the personal self is a fiction of mind. Just sit with that for a second, just to start to feel into what does that mean, right? The personal self is a fiction of mind. Another way to put it is the personal self is a densely layered construct of stories, beliefs, things we've learned, things we've told ourselves. We have created a sense of self. I have this past, I have these experiences. I grew up there. I have a personality in this form, in this incarnation. I've learned to be certain ways, to be loved, to be accepted, to belong. I may have a sense of nationality, of place, of family. Sit with this idea. The personal self is just a very complex story that you've been writing and creating and adding to and taking away from and editing for your entire life. It's malleable, changeable. And most of us, if we're doing some personal development work, are trying to change it, edit it, the story of self, the sense of self, the I that I believe I am, the egoic identity. Most of us, if we're doing personal development, are trying to rewrite the story and feel and be a better self, better me. And it's all a fiction. And it's a necessary fiction. We need a sense of identity to be in this world of form to some degree. But for most of us, that identity is remarkably dense. Remarkably dense. And we're so attached to it and so asleep in it. It's a dream. It's a dream of self. It's a mind-constructed self that we're living in and as. We're just so deep in it that it's hard to even imagine. What do you mean it's a construct? No, it's me. It's really, I mean, if you really look at it, you're like, where did that me come from? Well, I guess I made it up. I put it together because I experienced that, and mom taught me that, and dad taught me that, and then I surmised this and that. My young mind started to make up meaning around you being loved, unloved, abandoned, told to be worthy you have to accomplish. Somebody else has a story that tells them that their voice has no value. Somebody else hears a story that says that the only way to be strong in the world is to dominate. I mean, we've learned all manner of things that tell us, quote, who we are, and it's all a fiction. And well, you'll find in your own direct experience what happens when you really sit with that and you start to recognize this me that dominates, controls everything. It's just a complex, somebody once called it a complex set of coping mechanisms. And when we see it for what it is, it loses some of its power. Why would I want to be ruled, run, guided by a complex set of conditioning, programming, stories? It's all a fiction, made up. Who are you really? If you didn't have this story, what would be the essential nature of being underneath it? And that's why we often sit with this meditation to start with dropping into the breath, dropping out of the mind into the body, into a bit of presence, peace, stillness, and then asking, if I had no story, if I had no history, if I had no past, if everything that I have used to construct this sense of self never happened, was gone, was simply removed from me in this moment of sitting, in this moment of meditation, if all of that storyline, idea, construct, fiction, if all of that was gone, would I disappear? And I'll invite you to go to your own direct experience of that inquiry. if everything was gone, if everything that has contributed to you, to your story of self, was somehow magically erased for even 10 seconds, during that 10 seconds when it wasn't present, would you disappear? So for me this morning, well, I'll go back to that for a second. You may find you wouldn't disappear, and in fact, maybe the truest you might start to appear because you'd be seeing beyond the story. You'd be seeing beyond the construct. You'd be feeling a sense of, no, there's an isness, a beingness that exists. It isn't a construct. It isn't made up. It just is. We often call it the isness of being. And it's typically experienced as peace or joy or love or fulfillment or a beautiful blend of many of these things, the words that we use to describe it. But it's already whole. Stories are full of lack and uncertainty and doubt and need to project and grandiose nature of self. There's all manner of stories we tell about ourselves. But beyond all of them, beyond the dream of self, there is an essential self dreaming. And for me this morning, sitting with this, and again, it's a contemplation I've been with for years, and it just came up again this morning, naturally in my journaling. One of the first things I wrote in my journal this morning was, the personal self is a fiction. That's what I wrote. And then sat with that. I went, oh my God, what a blessing it is to be free of believing that I am that fiction. What a freedom it is to be awakened, to have the true self awakened, the one that is not changed by a story, the one that just is, our beingness. And that's called witnessing. We start to get a little bit of a separation from the personal, the dream of self, the idea is, I've got to do this and I have to do that. And we start to explore those and go, why? Why am I doing half, or if not all, the things I'm doing? What's the motivation? To be loved, to be successful, to be happy. If I do that, I'll be happy. If I get that, I'll be happy. And we start to recognize the essential nature of being before and beyond and underneath all stories is already at peace. I am that. I am the peace beyond my story. The I that I think that I am is a fiction, a construct of mind, and I am not that. I'm listening to a Ram Dass song right now playing inside, and he's just talking about we are spiritual beings. I recommend the Ram Dass album that he has recorded with East Forest. I don't remember the exact name of the album, but just look up Ram Dass and East Forest, and they have a beautiful collaborative album. All right, my friends. So I invite you to be with that contemplation. This thing you call you, what is that? This thing you call you, what is that? Mind-blowing. Pow. It's a complex construct of thoughts and beliefs and stories that I've been compiling over an entire life. And it's created a sense of self, an identity that is all a fiction. Who are you really? This is the freedom to know the true self. All right, blessings, my loves. Be well. Talk to you soon.